Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
On a day where every single person I spoke to in this little city of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, was absolutely petrified that something terrible was going to go wrong and Stuart Skinner was going to become a pumpkin and the Oilers were going to implode into some terrible hellscape. None of those things happened. It was incredibly rad and awesome. And the Oilers are heading back to Vegas with a chance to win this series and never have to hear that infuriating, weird, jingly that the Golden Knights do when they score in the playoffs and maybe in the regular season. I have no idea. Welcome to Game Over Edmonton. My name is Graham Mosimann. So excited to have you here for this one. How are you feeling in the chat? Let us know. We will break this whole big wonderful game down over the course of the next kind of half an hour or so. You may see a couple of sponsors kind of sticking in here on our and our little kind of underside. We tried something the other day. It didn't work necessarily as best as we'd like, as we had Ash and Avry over at Match Eatery and Public House, as well as Atlas Steak and Fish in the Grand Villa Casino right in Ice District. We had some technical difficulties, but we'll hopefully be back there very, very soon, and potentially for a series clinching game coming up on Wednesday. What a performance from top to bottom from your Edmonton Oilers. We're just going to break it down period by period. If you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions, questions, please throw them in the chat. I'll get to them as this game goes on and as the show goes on. Any post-game reaction, we'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. Now, I already had someone point this out on Twitter that I'm wearing, in fact, Edmonton Elks things. Weirdly enough, this playoffs, I accidentally wore a bunch of Elk stuff for like the first Oilers win against the Kings. It worked, so you clearly have to keep doing it, and then we just rode that accidental go Edmonton team good vibe clothing throughout the whole every win we've had so far. So is my solemn promise to you that I will never not wear a fully different team when the Oily Boys end up playing. I don't think enough can be said about the performance of Stuart Skinner here in this game. There were a couple moments where he had every reason to just kind of flop and wobble and not play up to the ability that we have seen him play in the playoffs, and he didn't do any of those things, and really he didn't have to for the most part, which is incredible work by the Oilers defense corps, who has had just a stunning turnaround here. Remember Matthias Ekholm? Yeah. He's assumed somewhere around, still healing and getting better. But how well this mix of Oilers defensemen have played. If you can just let Matthias heal even more, I don't know how you not do that. So, starting with just less than 90 seconds into this particular game, Adam Henrique kind of shows why we gave him that contract and why he has been such a important member of this team. Like, full credit on this goal too goes to Evander Kane and Zachary Hyman. Zachary on the attackery as the faceoff is immediately lost by Henrique. Connor Brown kind of jumps in there. Connor Brown, not Zach Hyman, excuse me. They play similar sometimes and they get messed up in my brain. Henrique loses the faceoff, but Connor Brown, who is I'm always kind of baffled to see fans, especially from like other markets, be surprised like, wow, Connor Brown's sure doing good for a guy that didn't score all last year. He didn't have bones last year. The man was made of skin and stitches, freshly off of a surgery. And you're seeing now the player that he was when he was crushing it for the Senators and doing great for Toronto for that handful of years. And he is so dogged on every single time you play that you put him on the ice. Connor Brown is always there to either wreck someone, try to score, or be effective on the ice. And that's exactly what he was able to do, because he is able to kind of push this puck off of the Vegas defender. I believe it was Zach Whitecloud who loses it. Brown is able to kind of get a lane after Evander Kane kind of pushes Whitecloud off the puck, and who's sitting there but the man that just lost the faceoff, but Adam Henrique to snipe an absolutely gorgeous goal. Now, we would hear from Adam Henrique a whole 11 minutes later, matching a performance that he has not given in the playoffs since he was the number one center for the New Jersey Devils, flanking Taylor Hall off of Taylor Hall's Hart Trophy season, as Henrique nets his second goal, that time wonderfully assisted by Hyman and Kane. Now, that one was like a midst of a line change. Like you could tell that things were like a little bit jumbled. And I know Chris Knobloch, I swear that man looks into a mirror and goes, things have been the same for 6 minutes. I better frig with that. And just starts line jumbling. But the Oilers were in the midst of a change here, as they had like a decent amount of offensive zone time. So you had Henrique there with Kane and Hyman, and then Wallman and Nurse as well. And Wallman and Nurse playing together gives me anxiety. It's not good. It's not good if it is in any place other than the offensive zone. But Hyman able to kind of push and fight to get into this particular play, as him and Evander Kane kind of team up and are fighting with Brendan McNabb to get a hold of that particular puck. As they kind of get that puck goes behind the net, Henrique sees Hyman kind of pulling in, kind of going around the net, and he pulls back, trying to get into that exact same zone he was just 11 minutes before to hopefully put something in, and he does. It's a bit of a jumble and a bit of a mess, but Henrique able to find some purchase on that puck, as brilliantly, Evander Kane just comes in and starts demoing people. Now, my fiance every time Evander Kane comes up on screen, calls that man a handsome villain, and that's extremely apt for what he's been able to do this series. It is astonishing how different this Oilers group looks when you have Evander Kane in it, especially for playoff hockey, because yeah, he's just there to be a friggin' bloater from The Last of Us, where, oh, there's people in the way, I'm just gonna run over you and take up a whole lot of screen time, and then stuff happens. So Evander Kane is going to show up again later in this game, and we'll talk about him more. It is, I swear, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights and Evander Kane, it is almost personal in the way he hates that team and the way that they hate him. But after we get this goal happening, he has to go off for charging against Adin Hill, which is, very fair. Nurse and Colasar are getting roughing back and forth. Kasperi Kapanen, who I was really baffled to see in the game sheet initially, but I think he performed pretty well. I would love to know what your thoughts over on some of the lineup changes here this evening. I mean, obviously there's one, so we're feeling pretty good about them. But having Kasperi Kapanen in, I thought was, when you do have guys like Jeff Skinner who can still play, thought those were interesting moves. As we just have a slew of penalties, the teams just fully into beating the crap out of one another. And if there's a point where the Oilers are really going to kind of pull ahead even more than they already have in this series, and if they really want to make that Wednesday game a guarantee win night, you have to get under Vegas' skin. You have to make them grumpy and have to have them kind of fall apart a little bit, because the fact of the matter is the Vegas Golden Knights, while having an incredible scoring ability all year long, they don't have the same kind of game-breaking scorers that they did the last time we played. I mean, if you remember a couple of years ago, it was Jonathan Marchessault who absolutely ruined our playoff. Marchessault no longer there. You're relying so much on Jack Eichel, who's amazing. You're relying on Pavel Dorofeev, who's pretty good. But, you have guys like Victor Olofsson, who've had to perform very, very well for this team in spurts when he hasn't been injured, to kind of bring up some of the scoring. So you have this moment kind of go by where Vegas doesn't have the kind of game-breaking immediate scoring ability they've had before. And the Oilers' forward core is kind of just pushing them around and running their day. I mean, so much of Vegas' size is built in that defense with Pietrangelo and Whitecloud and McNabb. Even, Shea Theodore, I don't think we think of him as a particularly physical defenseman. Incredible skater. Would want him on any team he would play. But not the most physical player. But everyone else on that Vegas defense can really hit and really mess up your day. And they just didn't seem to have the numbers as the Oilers really, really kind of pushed everything around on this one. So let's kind of move off here to the second period, where things did calm down a smidge, not a ton, as you had the refs really kind of clearly going into the second period be like, guys, stop all this goofiness. Like, everyone simmer down a little bit. Just be chill and stop. And while we still had a lot of push and shoving, there was a lot of kind of physical back and forth intensity. It wasn't at that kind of pure, well, I'm just going to wreck you kind of vibe that we really got from the first period. Now, we make our way to the second period, and just a handful of minutes in, 7:38, Evander Kane has the moment to kind of really let us remember, why he was such a high draft pick for the Atlanta Thrashers many, 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 many moons ago. I'm honestly trying to remember where was Evander Kane drafted? Was he third overall? That feels right ish. No, yeah, he was third overall. So that was the John Tavares draft, where you and not third overall, fourth overall, excuse me. That was the John Tavares draft where you had Tavares, Hedman, Duchesne, and then Evander Kane. Wow, 3 players in the top 10 of that draft currently crushing in the playoffs with Oliver Ekman-Larsson for the Leafs. 4 players, excuse me, Duchesne with the Ducks, Kane with us, Tavares with the Leafs. Kadri, poor guy, still hanging out in Calgary. Oh, and the Oilers, 10th overall pick that year. Ahead of Ryan Ellis, Zach Kassian, and Calvin DeHaan. Our sweet boy, Magnus Päijarvi-Svensson. Wow. I forgot he existed. He's playing for the Swedish Elite League right now. So good for you, Magnus Päijarvi. What a weird role.
Warning, incoming game over.
Wrong button.
Warning, incoming game over.
Well, now it's awkward. Now I have to sit through the whole transition. That's okay. We're here now. All right, so we get into the second period, 7 minutes in here, and Evander Kane now being matched up with alongside Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman. And when the playoffs were kind of really getting assembled, I didn't really know how much we would see Zach Hyman and Evander Kane kind of playing together, because their games are kind of similar in a sense. Zach Hyman's a little bit more, he's a little less, oh, I'm going to wreck you, and a bit more just like that constant regular dogged fight, which is, what we love to see. But it just felt a little similar in style to Evander Kane. And, really, Knobloch kind of nailed it out of the park with this one, because you have those 2 players who take up a lot of physical space, let Connor McDavid have a whole lot more room to kind of operate. And when McDavid makes this just absolutely gorgeous pass to sneak things by Mark Stone and Jack Eichel, you are left with a defense pairing of Shea Theodore and Braden McNabb. And Braden McNabb is many things. He's a very physical player. He is this kind of almost like a just beefy mess that can physically wreck your day. Not the best positionally at times, and it really kind of showed here, because you have Evander Kane and Zach Hyman going in, and you can really see that Zach Hyman is immediately trying to set himself for some sort of rebound. And to Evander Kane's credit, he's still maintained a lot of that like natural kind of scoring brain that he's always had. He's been a 30-goal scorer a handful of times over his career. His offensive ability as a power forward has never really been doubted. But when you sit for an entire season, how much of those kind of skills end up disappearing? Well, if you're Evander Kane, very clearly not any, because he has that low, wiry wrist shot that he is clearly trying to make. If it doesn't go in the net, Aiden Hill's going to have to kick out his pads in the butterfly, and it'll kick right out to Zach Hyman, and then hopefully Hyman can kind of pick up the garbage and score. That doesn't happen, as we just get a really gorgeous Kane goal as he rips it past Hill, gets his little hugs from Connor and Hyman, and as he's, and this is my favorite thing that Evander Kane does, especially when you like have that player who's just like the pure villain. You watch him skate right by the Vegas bench and give them that kind of, oh, I want to punch you in the face smile, like that one. Yeah, it was good. And that was a little scoring we had in this particular one, as the rest of the period game was really just a matter of the Oilers locking things down defensively. First period, we only had 5 shots on net for Vegas. Second period, we only had 7. It really wasn't until you saw those kind of score effects coming into place that really pushed the Golden Knights into actually being able to tally up a decent number of shots. But you had such great collective work by the Oilers defensively to really limit any opportunities that they would have, and they didn't let themselves get kind of pulled into a big penalty mess the same sort of way that they maybe did a little bit in the first period. So when it comes to the rest of that particular game, we didn't have a single penalty in the third period. 3 stars I thought were a really interesting kind of run, as we have Adam Henrique with 2 goals, Evander Kane with a goal and assist, and then Stuart Skinner with the shutout. Um, you can tell we're going to dive a little bit more into Stuart Skinner pretty shortly here. The Oilers want Stuart Skinner to be their guy. They just do. There's enough uncertainty about Calvin Pickard between the injury and how that man just does not have a 5-hole that he can properly close half the time, that they really do want Stu to be the guy. And in this case, it kind of panned out. I mean, you never want it to happen because of injury, but like in this case, kind of worked. I mean, Stu stood on his head really well a couple times throughout this game. Would love to know what you think about Stuart Skinner's game, how you saw him kind of reading the puck and following along things, and your thoughts on the game kind of writ large, especially around our defense. Put it up in the chat. Would love to hear what you think. I do want to tell you as well that Atlas Steak and Fish it was closed for a couple years. Didn't have a lot of time to, right during around COVID. There's just a lot of things happening, and it is going to be opening up again. And the Grand Villa Casino inside our Ice District, and it is going to be like such a high level kind of luxury experience that you're really going to enjoy. Hopefully, if we end up back there coming up on Wednesday, we'll kind of give you a little bit of a look at what they're putting on, because it's really cool. And just having more wonderful options, especially so close to the rink, are going to be absolutely incredible. Moving on to the third period, this was a really great kind of showcase of some of the mistakes that I think people have made when they talk about the Oilers defense. I'm becoming more and more convinced that there's something weird in this Oily Boys team brain that makes them only want to try when it's really important. Because when you have a guy like Evan Bouchard, who had a fine game, didn't Evan Bouchard it up, as we've seen so many times, when you have someone like Troy Stecher coming into play for his first go of the playoffs, you would be very fair in thinking that, like, oh, this can all kind of go to heck, because frankly, a lot of these players have shown you that they don't try sometimes. I mean, Evan Bouchard, I don't know how often that man even bends at the waist. Troy Stecher, you see him shirk away from hits a lot during the regular season, and here you had absolutely none of that. And these pairings really balanced off each other extremely well. You had Kulak and Bouchard. Kulak, I'm assuming, was told, like, hey, use your skating, use your ability, really kind of help out Bouch defensively as you can. And that was really effective. You had Darnell Nurse and Troy Stecher, who have performed very well together at different points of the season. They were always kind of in the right spots to support each other, being aware of one another's deficiencies. And then Wallman and Klingberg, which, like, you look at the pairing of Jake Wallman and John Klingberg in the year of our Lord 2025, and there is nothing about that pairing that says it should work. You have two guys that very offensive, very focused on scoring goals, and defense has never been a great hallmark of what they do. They're playing great. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to take off my glasses for effect. In 2025, John Klingberg has become one of the most important Edmonton Oilers defensemen. How? In what world would anyone have predicted this? Because he was bad, dude. Like, when he was with the Leafs, horrific. I baffled at how good how good John Klingberg has been. And, maybe this is another telling of what happens when you have a guy that, has two working hips the same way that Connor Brown does. Maybe they were good hockey players all along who were just very, very broken. Bar Down Bro in the chat, what were your thoughts on how Hill responded to the Kane run-in? I I love Aiden Hill. I was annoyed when Jordan Binnington was the person starting for Canada at the Four Nations face-off. I was proven very wrong on that one. I think a lot of people were. I mean, I wanted Thompson, former Vegas goalie, now in Washington, to be the guy, and of course Binnington kind of proved all of us wrong. Um, I thought that Aiden Hill let himself get really, really rattled in a way that you don't really see very often. It's a pretty safe place to be when you're a Vegas Golden Knights goaltender. And that's always really been the case. If Vegas has done one thing over their team history, it's they've focused on making sure their defensemen are large and punchy and can move people out in front of the net. That's one of the hallmarks of a Kelly McCrimmon team. I mean, even that goes back to when Kelly McCrimmon was a general manager and owner of the Brandon Wheat Kings. That's why the Wheaties put out so many huge physical defensemen. And so you never really, as a Golden Knight goaltender, have had to deal with a whole lot of people just coming to wreck your day because you've been able to rely on your defensemen to either wreck them back or keep them from getting in the zone at all. And when you have a Vander Kane that just skates with such reckless abandon, like there's this great line in last night's episode of The Last of Us, if you've watched that show, where one of the lead characters, Ellie, turns to her partner and goes, "Let's be reckless." And I feel like that's what Evander Kane tells himself every time he steps on the ice. Yeah, let's be reckless. So it's really clear they were able to shake him up a little bit. And the fact that he was straight up trying to fight after everything else had happened, I thought was a great sign that you have him a little bit rattled. I mean, you saw every time someone tried to skate by him, he was looking like a Timu version of Ron Hextall, trying to hack at people. So, I mean, I love Aiden Hill, but they talked about it in the intermission that Patrick Burke probably had to go to him and be like, "Hey, Aiden, you're good, man. Like, calm down. Let the big guys handle it and just skate out of the way." Because there was a point tonight where Aiden Hill kind of looked like bad Jordan Binnington. That guy who's always like, "I'm going to mess you up. I'm going to mess you up," brr, 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 and then does nothing. Except Aiden Hill actually threw a punch, which is more than Jordan Binnington's ever done. So good for you, Aiden Hill. I deeply hope that we can get back to rattling him later on. Bart Ambrose, I thought it was fitting how Kane then later scored a pretty soft goal by Hill on him. It really was. I think he really was. I mean, look, Evander Kane's a big dude, and he kind of gets those crazy eyes sometimes, even with like the kind of shaded visor. You see that skating at you 100 miles an hour, I would also get rattled. But I mean, it's especially with that particular play, I think it's really important to note, like Zach Hyman, who didn't really get an assist on it, but probably should have, he took such a specific angle to clean up a rebound if there was one, and it looked like Kane was honestly shooting for the rebound more than anything else. Like, that puck was targeted so far to the right post that when he pops down into the butterfly, he's going to kick out that left leg. It is going to go right to Zach Hyman, who is skating also 100 miles an hour at him. So really, I mean, props to Zach there for kind of being able to push through the check he was taking to really frig up where I think Aiden Hill was trying to look, because you're watching Evander Kane over here, you have Zach Hyman over here. Both of these guys have dummied you in the last handful of games. I get it. I get being a little thrown off on that one. So, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what kind of leash Aiden Hill gets. If he gets a little feisty and gets out of his head and really kind of isn't the goalie that we've all known. I mean, remember, he was this unknown guy that showed up out of nowhere as a third stringer last time we played. We were all like, we'll probably win if... Who is their goalie? It was Robin Leonard. And then... God, the Vegas goes through goalies like a car in Edmonton goes over potholes. It's just like a new one every few years. Hard to keep track. So I'm really interested to see if he gets rattled in Vegas on Wednesday, what that's going to look like, because I completely forgot, honestly, until this game when I looked up who the Vegas backup goalie was. It is Maple Leafs legend Ilya Samsonov. Not going to say that bode pretty well for us if he ended up playing. Wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be mad at all. As we wrap up, we're probably just wrap it up here pretty quickly here on Game Over Edmonton. This has been really fun. It's nice to jump on a show. Hopefully we'll be at a pretty spicy, fun, exciting place for the next one, doing a live broadcast. But we will see how it all shakes out. Have some things to work out and figures to adjust and all stuff. But hopefully we'll see how it all shakes out. I thought this is a really, really interesting kind of tweet that's come across the line here about Stuart Skinner. In games 1 to 3 of a series, Stuart Skinner is 4-11 with an .857 and 0 shutouts. You put Stuart Skinner in games 4 through 7, he is 11-1 with a .942 and a pair of shutouts. Sick. Awesome. We love that. Good for Stu. And, obviously, like, Stu will be the guy, clearly, even when Calvin Pickard comes back. Stu will probably end up playing on Wednesday. And, who knows what, if we are so lucky to make it through the next round. Because remember, these are the Vegas Golden Knights. They are still awesome. There is no guarantee we will win. I'm feeling much less nervous about that performance, because Stu Skinner's a guy that, like, he has a good performance. He rides that high for a while and is able to kind of put some good stuff together. And, is this the start of another great chapter in Stuart Skinner's history? Who can say? It's very possible. One thing I really want to also give some love to, though, is Vasily Podkolzin, who almost scored again tonight. The thing we heard from Canucks fans when Podkolzin came over here was that, oh yeah, he's gonna look good like once in a while, but he's no hockey IQ, no idea what he's doing. There's no clue. And one of the things we saw today is, and have seen through probably the last 30 games of Vasily Podkolzin, is when you ask him to just kind of like be very, like, play a simple game and hit people and shoot the puck when you have a chance, and just be there to kind of wreck stuff, he does really well. Like, he doesn't have that same skill level that Dylan Holloway did. That he doesn't have that same scoring ability, because he doesn't have that same kind of hockey IQ. Dylan Holloway was incredible at being able to extend a cycle and keep the Oilers in the offensive zone, and I wish we still had him. Oh boy, do I ever, because my goodness. And so Podkolzin was very much kind of brought in to be that, kind of Teamu-ish.com version of Dylan Holloway, and he's kind of morphed into something different. I think he has a little bit more straight line speed. It does take him a bit to get going, but man, when he does, it's a lot of fun. So between how great Stuart Skinner was, being able to kind of pull off that sort of effort, you can't not help be, like, kind of happy for the guy. The What Chaos Boys pointed out this morning that Connor McDavid doesn't actually follow Stuart Skinner on Instagram. Follows everyone else, does not follow Stuart Skinner. Is Stuart going to go home, snuggle up into bed, tuck his little mustache in, and then get that little bloop from Instagram, followed by Connor McDavid 97? It's possible. And that could be the moment that the Oilers officially seal this series. That'll do it for this little show here on the Game Over Network. My name's Graham Mosimann. Thank you so much for joining us. If you need more grassroots, locally driven, kind of bunch of nerds just trying to have fun talking hockey vibes, our pals over on Game Over Toronto are going to have a lot of stuff going on as well. in the very near future for their series, which is looking to be a lot of fun. And it's good. There's good vibes. There's good energy. I'm so excited for this team. When they look on, they kind of look like, I'm not gonna say unbeatable, but they look like they're just like, ooh, look, a demon. I'm the guy in Doom, murder. But not actual murder, the fun, silly kind. Anyway, the Oilers are Doom guy, and things are looking good. Have yourself a wonderful day, friendo. We will see you on Wednesday here on Game Over Edmonton. Whatever you were wearing today, wear it again. Wednesday. Because if you don't and we lose, it'll probably be your fault. Take care. We'll talk to you soon here on the Game Over Network. I forgot to load the little thing that makes the stream end all cool, so I'm just going to go